All right, so we've got breaking news regarding the Alzheimer's drug Blarcamesine, which is made by a company called Anavex Life Sciences. They just put out a press release this morning. It's just a couple of hours old. Let me take a look at it. Basically, looks like Anavex is focusing in on the wild type of the sigma-1 genotype population. This constitutes about 70% of the human population of the world. They have the wild type sigma-1 genotype. And basically, in the past studies, they've shown that their drug, blarcamesine, reduces cognitive decline by about 50%, about over 49% for those with the wild type sigma-1 genotype. So that means that years could be given back to Alzheimer's patients in regards to their cognitive abilities, especially as measured by the ADAS COG-13. Um, and as well as as well as the CDR-SB. Now look at this. This new press release says that on all standard scales for measuring Alzheimer's disease and cognitive decline, after 48 weeks, the defined precision medicine population AB Clear 3, consisting of early AD patients with confirmed and progressed pathology taking 30 milligrams once daily oral blarcamesine, demonstrated barely detectable decline, meaning barely detectable cognitive decline. They could barely see any decline in their ability to think, reason, and remember. Okay, quoting again, this was comparable to minimally perceptible decline in prodromal, meaning pre-dementia aging adults. Okay, and they have a bullet point here. Let me show you here. Um, for ADS COG-13, the standardized test for Alzheimer's disease regarding cognitive decline, blarcamesine showed a 48-week change from baseline of 0.853 compared to negative 1 point typical annual decline. Oh, not negative, but excuse me, compared to about 1 point typical annual decline in prodromal aging adults. So basically, they're saying that the people in this particular population with the wild type sigma-1 taking blarcamesine at 30 milligrams um, basically returned to normal um, at 48 weeks. They're comparing the test scores at 48 weeks versus when they started, and they're comparing that difference with the difference in the normal population. For CDR-SB, that's um, a cognitive behavioral measure of Alzheimer's dementia, how severe it is. Blarcamesine demonstrated a change from baseline of 0.465, aligning with the 0 to 0.5 point annual range seen in prodromal aging. So the 0.465 lies within the normal range of a normal human being without dementia, of a bit of cognitive behavioral decline over the years, of the aging population. Um, Here are the actual numbers. At the baseline, meaning at the beginning of the 48-week study, before they started taking the drug, um, you've got some pretty high numbers there. Um, I'm not sure what they're referring to. Um, okay, so that's the mean. All right, no. So this is the mean score. Okay, so the mean score of the study population was 28.4 before they started taking the drug. And here you see, after 48 weeks of taking the drug, the change from baseline, they added 0.853 points, which is, worsening. On the ADAS COG-13, if you add points, that means your Alzheimer's situation has worsened. Um, so now, so the people taking the drug worsened by 0.853 points. The normal population worsens after 52 weeks of about 1.26. So you're saying, well, you're looking at this. They worsened by 8.8 points after 48 weeks with the drug, and they worsened by 1.26 points after 52 weeks for the normal population. And there's about a 4-week difference there. Well, that 4 weeks out of 48 is 1/12, which is about 8.5%. If you add another 8.5% to this number here, you're not going to get anything. You're not going to get close to 1.26. And so, what is really interesting here is that it looks like the people taking the drug actually slowed their cognitive decline so much that their decline rate is now slower than the normal population. So the people taking the drug with Alzheimer's disease are now slowing in their cognitive decline less than people without Alzheimer's disease. That's impressive. Now, the same cannot be said for the people taking the, actually, it looks like Blarcamesine people with Blarcamesine and Alzheimer's disease performed better than people who don't have Alzheimer's disease not taking Blarcamesine, according to this chart here on the CDR-SB, the cognitive behavioral measure. So the implication here for you, the person who might want to take this drug, is that there is a higher probability of this drug being approved by the EU, by the European Union. There should be a decision made in the first 3 months of 2026 regarding its approval. That's what the company has said. With this information, what we are looking at is that the company is now giving the EU a different option of how to approve the drug. Basically, they're saying, look, our drug works fantastic for 70% of the population. In fact, it may even reverse like Alzheimer's, since the decline is actually slower than the normal non-afflicted population. So why don't you approve this drug? If you can't approve it for the entire 100% of the population, approve this drug for the 70% of the population for which this drug works fantastically. Now, the drug seems to work, or does work, according to the research, according to the drug trials. It does work for the 100% of the population, both for the non-wild type and the wild type of the sigma-1 genotype. It's just that it doesn't work as well. We're looking at a 36% reduction or slowing, a 36% slowing of cognitive decline as measured by the ADAS COG13, which is a measure of cognition on its own. It is an objective measure, not like the ADCS. The ADAS is an objective measure. The patient has to answer questions asked by the clinician. And if they answer the questions right, they score points, or they get their overall score reduced, actually, because the ADAS is a measure of how severe your dementia is. So for the ADCS, it's a purely behavioral measure, and it's a subjective measure, where the caretakers, the children of the patient, basically say, well, I think my father or my mother is their behavior is X, Y, or Z. It's getting worse, or it's getting better, or whatnot. So anyways, on the ADAS COG13, the Blarcamesine, people who took Blarcamesine showed a 36% decline in 36% slowing of cognitive decline, and for the sigma-1 wild type population, it was a 49% slowing of cognitive decline. And so if the EU says, well, you know, um, we're not sure about this drug. We like the fact that there's no side effects. We previously rejected drugs that had clinical proof of their efficacy, but we rejected them because they were too dangerous. Your drug is safe. No one has ever died from your drug. No one has suffered any brain swelling or brain damage from your drug, like lecanemab, and the other drug from Eli Lilly. So lecanemab is a Biogen ASI drug, and the other drug, whose name slips my mind right now, is from Eli Lilly. Both those drugs can cause brain damage. So the EU has previously rejected these drugs, but now they changed their mind on lecanemab for a subsection of the Alzheimer's population. So Anavex could be taking a page out of the Biogen ASI playbook, by saying, look, if you can't approve the drug for the entire Alzheimer's population, approve it for this subsection. And we've never seen results like this before, where there's a 49% slowing of cognitive decline for any subpopulation of the Alzheimer's afflicted group of humans. So it's highly encouraging. The drug is highly encouraging. You might want to go check to see if you have the wild type or the non-wild type of the sigma-1, and be prepared. If you have someone in your family who has Alzheimer's disease, you could decide to try to go to Europe and try to get this drug, if it is approved, sometime between January and March of next year. Good luck.